We're looking at KC Munchkin for the Magnavox Odyssey 2 video game system, the microprocessor, the enormous plastic gray behemoth with a keyboard built into the video game console itself. Why aren't they doing that today? The modern gaming consoles want you to buy keyboard add-ons. Well, Magnavox saves you time and money. KC Munchkin is the first game on the Magnavox Odyssey 2 that I played, and I grew up with an Atari 2600, and it's my classic game console, weapon of choice for games from the late 1970s and early 1980s. Just recently, I picked up a Magnavox Odyssey 2. This obviously resembles another video game that we're all familiar with, and that would be Pac Man. In fact, it resembles Pac Man so much that this game, which was released in 1981, was pulled from the market about a year later. The game is very similar to Pac Man in many ways. I think most notably is the chomping motion that KC Munchkin makes. We've seen the maze concept before, and it's used quite well in games like Lock and Chase, for instance. But I think KC Munchkin probably pushed it a little too close with their chomping. Note you can enter your name for a high score. How about that? Thanks to that handy keyboard I was talking about. The Odyssey 2 is pretty cool, and you guys are definitely going to want to pick one up after you see a few of these game reviews. There's a number of different game options, and I'll just show you about two of them here in the first part of this review. Now, I'm a huge fan of Pac Man and Ms. Pac Man. In both of those games, you play predetermined mazes that don't move, don't really interact with the character. There's power pellets in four corners, you have four ghosts chasing you, and so forth. We all know how Pac Man works. Now, KC Munchkin has some drastically different elements. First of all, the things that you're eating are called pills, and they move around the screen rather than just remaining stationary and waiting for Pac Man to eat them. When you eat the blinking ones, you can then turn the tables on your aggressors, the Munchers. Those are the enemies. They're not called ghosts in this game, they're Munchers. As you see, these subtle differences in our familiar Pac Man maze-based video game make for an exciting game. Another thing that's drastically different is that the Munchies increase in speed as you eat them. Now note in this maze, what's really cool, and what I like a lot about KC Munchkin is the thing in the middle that's rotating. I guess it's not so much rotating as the wall is disappearing in a clockwise fashion. The game speeds up quickly. I was very proud of my high score. Named it Xanadu because I could. They give you 6 letter positions. You may as well use them all. The middle rotating square is always there, and it's where the Munchers regenerate themselves. As you'll note in one part where I actually get killed trying to sneak my way through there, where there were some Munchers in purgatory, or whatever you would call it. Now that's a name for a rock band, by the way, Munchers in Purgatory. I have to think of that next time in Guitar Hero. And scoring in this game is a bitch. This isn't one of the modern games where you rack up billions of points. This thing gives you like 1 point for each Munchie that you get. And when you get to the very last one, it actually moves at the exact same speed that you do. So rather than chasing the thing down, you actually have to find a way to intercept it. It took me a while to get used to this, but the score is actually on the bottom right, and on the bottom left is the high score. I personally think that KC Munchkin is the worst name for any video game ever created, and that KC Munchkin himself looks like he deserves to be stepped on. But that doesn't stop me from saying that this is one of the greatest old-school video games that I've ever played. If you've played Pac Man on Atari 2600, you know that that's one of the worst video games ever made. Very different from Pac Man in the arcade, which is incredible. KC Munchkin actually came out a bit earlier than the Pac Man version on the Atari 2600, not in the arcade. The Pac Man came out in 1980 in the arcade. However, if you get a chance to play this game, you really should, because it's just tremendous, and if you like Pac Man and Lock and Chase, you're going to love this game. And another major difference I haven't mentioned yet is you don't get multiple lives in this game. You get one life. So when you die, that's it. I think it would have been really cool if this game had a soundtrack. I don't know what the capabilities of the Odyssey 2 and the sound department are. It sounds pretty similar to the Atari 2600. However, if they could have put in some kind of old school beat of a KC and the Sunshine Band song with KC Munchkin, that would have been really cool. In fact, they could have replaced KC Munchkin altogether and just had it be KC and the Sunshine Band, the video game. See you in part 2 as we program our own mazes.